Hello, 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 gals. I am coming to you today with some fun content and actually some really important content. So maybe it's not the most fun, but I am excited to share it with you as I believe it is extremely important information. So please feel free to join me. I will be right back in just a second. All right. Hello, hello. Please make sure to say hi in the comments so I know that you're here. It does not always show me who is saying hi. So, of course, feel free to say hi from whoever you are. But let's jump right in. So, today we're actually going to be talking about forgiveness and being less offended. I think these go hand in hand, and I believe it is so important because I see women sabotaging themselves all the time over these two things. So I believe, and when we are building our story and becoming the authors of our own story, this is something that we do need to get a hold of so that we can create the life that we want. Now, you may be like, well, what the heck does that have to do with anything? Well, and also please let me know if you can hear me or not hear me. This has been a problem I've had with this program a couple of times, so I hope you guys can hear me. So forgiveness, let's start with that. Forgiveness is one of those things that is for you, not for the person being forgiven. And that is where a lot of people, I believe, go wrong. They think, oh, if I'm forgiving them, then I'm condoning what they have done. And that is not true. Oh, yay, Coco. Thank you. Okay. So hopefully that means you guys can hear me. Awesome. So we're going to talk about forgiving others and we're going to talk about forgiving yourself. If you go into the gals group, you will see that I have created some sheets for this. And in fact, let me see if I can share them with you online while we're on here. I believe I have this ready. So in the group, you will see the forgiveness and not offended, being less offended pages. Definitely grab those. Oh, there it is. Okay, here we go. Boop, boop, ba doo. Maybe I'm going to be showing you. I love technology. It's so great. Here we go. All right. There we go. Okay. There. Now you can see my screen. Okay, so forgiveness. Something that is really important to me is knowing what forgiveness is and what forgiveness is not. So, first off, as I mentioned before, forgiveness is for you. And I have a visual that I was given quite some time ago about what forgiveness does when you don't heal it or process it. And one of those things is the visual is a vision of a woman being held by ropes. And these ropes are the the unforgiven situations. Because if you think about it, when you haven't gone through the process of healing something, especially a situation that needs to be forgiven, it can tend to take over your life. You might be triggered by things. You could see something on social media and immediately just have to go through a flood of those feelings again. It can lead to all kinds of situations. It can make you feel guilty. It can make you feel shame when you shouldn't be bearing those feelings. A lot of times, the people who we need to forgive for ourselves don't even know that we're still struggling with the thing that they may have done to us that they didn't even know they did, or they do know they did, but they've moved on with their lives. And we're the ones that are still carrying the burden of that situation. And so those ropes to me are like carrying a big dump truck that you might be able to move because we're powerful, amazing, capable women, right? We can do a lot, even with a lot of weight. But every time we get so far, it whips us back. And that is what I want to have you guys be free from. So let's look at what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is a conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment or vengeance. That can be towards a person, a company, an organization, all kinds of things. There's so many things that you could be angry at. And I want to share that it is a process and a practice. I have a situation that happened to me a few years ago, and it takes a practice regularly. Sometimes it'll just come at the weirdest moments, and I'm like, what the crap? I've dealt with this, but I have to remind myself that I dealt with this and I don't need to hold on to it any longer. And so it is a practice of continually reminding myself sometimes, like, oh my gosh, you already have dealt with this. Let it go. Also, again, and this is on the page, so I'm just going through the page. Forgiveness is for you, not for them, which leads perfectly into what forgiveness is not. And I think this is actually more important to know. Forgiveness is not forgetting. Many of us have had serious things happen in our lives. I myself have had sexual abuse, verbal abuse, all different kinds of things that have happened. And I know I'm not alone in that in this group. It does not mean that we would forget what happened. It is just a conscious, deliberate decision to release the feelings. It's also not approval. Just because you forgive somebody does not mean that you condone what they did. It is also not trusting. Just because you forgive somebody and you can be in the same room with them, which I have had to have that situation in my life, I'm sure some of you have as well, does not mean I trust the person. I can be in the same room with them. I can even talk with them, but I am not ever going to share anything important with them. And I am certainly not going to regularly spend time with them. I do have certain people in my life that it's like, it's kind of an obligatory thing that I've got to see them like once a year. And I can do that because I've forgiven them for myself. I've released the feelings. It is also not passive. It does take work. And I do have some ideas for you for some physical ways that you can do this. So don't worry, I'm going to share those with you pretty soon. And it's also not required. It's really not. You don't have to forgive. I do think it is an art form that we have lost a little bit over the last few years. I feel like we, which goes right into the easily offended, we get angry, we hold a grudge, we never let it go. But who's really hurting from that? Us, not the other person. So I just really, really want to hone in on that idea that it is not for the other person. It's for you, my friend. All right. So I do have on this page, I also want to remind you to forgive yourself. I don't know about you, but I have made some really dumb decisions in my life. And I have beat myself up over and over again over those decisions. I have to forgive myself. You have to forgive yourself of those decisions. It can be tough. We can have moments where it is rubbed in our face, the things that we did wrong or the decisions that we made. But you can release those feelings. It can be more difficult to forgive ourselves, and I think we are the hardest on ourselves over anybody else. And so I want to remind you, and I want to ask, would you hold anybody else to the same standard that you hold yourself to? Would you continually hold things up against people in your life? Probably not. You're probably kinder. You're probably more forgiving of other people. So give yourself the same grace. All right. Can see and hear me. Thank you. I want to take a quick little break. I can see you. Yay. Thank you. Hi, Stephanie. Hi, Coco. Hi, Becky. Yay. Thank you for putting your names because, yes, it doesn't tell me who anybody is. I really appreciate it. So I have a list here. You can see here that you can write. Please print these out and keep them in a binder. You guys have seen my cute little binder that I keep everything in, because the thing is, sometimes we come up with things. There it is. After we've done the initial work, and then you'll think of other things like, oh my gosh, yes, okay, I've also got to forgive myself for this and for that. So do make sure that you actually print these out and put them into a binder. So go ahead and list things that you need to forgive yourself for. And then also write down things that you need to forgive others for. And remember, this is for you. Now I have some ideas. These are kind of fun. I've done several of these myself, and they're just really great visuals. I love this. I got to hop off. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I apologize. I don't know who it is, but thank you. I love you. So this is the first part of my dump the junk in Signature Self, which we're going to focus on in all of February. And I will probably share multiple times to please get help. If you have a lot of things that you need to process to forgive others or to forgive yourself, please get some help. Go to a therapist. There's things like BetterHelp where you can just go and talk to somebody. You can do it virtually. There are so many options today. You can go and seek out like a pastor or a spiritual director or whatever that looks like for you, because they have the tools to help you work through this. What I do see all the time when women have not worked through this process is they're always talking about the same thing over and over and over again. And what it becomes, especially when they've been dealing with this for, let's say, 30, 40 years, is it becomes ugly and toxic. And it makes them say and do things that they may not say and do if they were healed from these things. So, and they'll just continue to share. It also becomes like a weird, ugly gossip because it's always negative. And it's, you kind of get to the point when you've talked to this person for, however many times you've talked to them. This happens a lot with family, that you're just kind of like, oh my gosh, why don't you just go get some help with this? Right? You know, those people, you probably have them in your life, right? I do as well. Like, oh, I just wish you would go get some help, because unfortunately, then those people tend to leak their toxicity onto others. And then those people actually need therapy as well. So it's an ugly, vicious cycle. No, I don't want you guys going through this. I want you to have the most amazing life possible. And so let's let go of these things. So you can speak to a counselor or therapist about the situation. Maybe you don't have something that crazy. I have gone and done therapy for, some pretty serious things, but it doesn't have to be super serious. It can also just be, I need someone to talk to. I have a friend that put it in a really great way. It's like having a paid best friend who actually has tools to help you through it. So good. All right. So some other things that you can do though, too. An action is you could write the thing on a rock and then you can throw it. Oh, look, throw it off a cliff. It's supposed to say cliff. Obviously, I did not edit this. I was in a hurry today when I wrote it. But throw it into a cliff or water and let it go. I don't know about you guys. I can sometimes, that tangible hands-on thing is really helpful for me to really visually and tangibly let go. You can also make a list of the people that you need to forgive and burn it. That burning, especially if you're really just focused on, all right, I am forgiving this, I'm letting this go. This is a physical manifestation, if you will, of my letting this go. And then it's nice because when you start to think about that again, you can be like, no, I burned this. This is done. I am not going to continue with this, right? So another one that you can do is you can create an altar or physical reminder. Now, this is a lot of people like, oh, wait, are we going into the Bible? No, we're not. A lot of cultures do rock altars. They do different types of physical pieces and things to actually help them remember what decision they made or what they learned, that kind of a thing. I have done this a few times in my life where I have actually created specific things Of course, I can't think of many right now, but I have done it. And that thing, I have had a rock that I put in my pocket with something painted on it. That's one of them. And it reminds me, you know what? You've let this go. You have forgiven yourself. This one was a forgive myself because that's always the hardest one. Another one is a meditation. You can picture each situation as a rope, like I talked about earlier, and talk through forgiving each situation. And in your mind, you can picture cutting that rope and letting it go. That visual, especially if you think of yourself pulling like a dump truck, that is a really great one to walk through, in those times when it's coming back and say, no, I cut that dang rope. I am not going to continue to live at that. So, another action, and guys, these are not the only ideas that you can do. You can do whatever comes to you. I just want to give you some ideas of ways that you can physically and visually solidify this forgiveness for yourself. Another action is to write the situation onto a canvas and paint a healing picture over it. I love this one. Painting can be such a healing therapeutic thing anyways, but if you are painting over something that is hurting you or triggering you or whatever, man, can that be like amazing. It's such a good physical way to let go of that. So, I would love to know if there's anything that you need help with in forgiving. I unfortunately think that this has become a lost art. I am seeing whole generations that I don't think are dealing with forgiveness. And I think it's a misunderstanding of what forgiveness is and isn't. I hope that this is helpful to you. But it does go right into the being less offended. I do believe over the last couple of years, with all the stuff going on, I have fully watched, and some rightfully so, but I have fully watched complete families fall apart, relationships completely go away from people that people really cared about. I know they did, or they do. And unfortunately, it really can be draining. It's so draining of our energy. It can take away your creativity. It can completely trigger you in so many ways. I have had people that I've had to stop following because every time I see them doing something on social media, it hurts my heart because I know that they have ghosted me or whatever. And that's okay. You can do that. But being less offended, I think this needs to be talked about. I get it that the social climate is crazy these days. We have been through some really crazy elections, and I'm sure we've got some more ahead of us. We've been through COVID. We've been through all kinds of conspiracy theories and not conspiracy theories, politics, all kinds of stuff. And here's what I'm going to say. You do not have to engage with everyone. It's not your job. You don't have to. If it is an important relationship to you and you feel like you need to, that's one thing. But you do not have to engage with everyone. And there are some things that I just want to put out there. You can do things like be on social media less. I actually think that is a very healthy practice to do on a regular basis. Get off of social media for a little bit. And this actually, I don't know where I had this in the order, but it's not a real conversation. And it's kind of funny. As Aslan and Chronicles of Narnia, I think it was the first one. Might not have been. I can't remember which one. Either way, no, it wasn't the first. But Aslan said to Susie one day when she got into some book where she could hear and she wished to hear her friends' thoughts about her, and they weren't super positive. I loved what he said. It is none of your business what your friends think about you. I agree fully. And the hard part with social media is we are literally seeing and hearing every single opinion of everybody about everything. And quite frankly, I don't need to know your opinion on chocolate chip cookies or whatever it is. We can be friends either way. And you know what? If I disagree with you, I can go ahead and scroll past. Now, I understand that there are some situations that are way more serious than that. And I know that I'm kind of sugarcoating it and not fully talking about the more difficult things. But I also believe you can just scroll. You can just keep scrolling. If you don't like something somebody said, just keep scrolling. And remember that it is not a real conversation. And also, you're probably not going to change anybody's mind, and they're not going to change yours. So, really, kind of leaves you at a stalemate of what now? Now, if you don't care about the relationship, fine. It doesn't matter. Who cares? You're never going to see this person again. Did it really do anything for you to add that? Probably not. So, what about those that you do care about, though? This is the part that has really hurt my heart, is that I've watched so many people ruin their relationships over things that some of them, not all of them, but some of them were pretty trivial things. And like, seriously, does this really matter that much to you that you have to go and ruin this relationship? And I won't go into that a lot. I have a lot of opinions about that. But I feel like if you value a relationship, rather than continuing a conversation through text, email, social media, any of the above, that where they cannot hear your voice, you should not be engaging in that important of a topic, that important of a conversation. If you disagree with someone or you're arguing with them or whatever, or there's a situation, I really believe it at least deserves a phone call. Because you can't hear their voice, they can't hear your voice. And so often, so much misunderstanding happens just in the typed word. It comes across colder, it comes across in just ways that you didn't anticipate. And also, people tend to read things in the mood that they're in at the time. So if they're already angry, frustrated, maybe dealing with a bunch of things in life, you never know what people are dealing with in their lives, right? Then they're going to read it that way, whether you meant it that way or not. Now, I will say emojis help a lot with that. And I tend to do a lot of emojis for that reason. But even with that, they can be misconstrued. I've had this happen in my own life. And I always, every single time, wished I would have just hopped on a phone call with that person rather than dealing with it through text. So, this is really a protection of your mind. This is, again, not about the other person. It's about you. How do you protect your mind? And being less offended or getting triggered by things is something that can take so much of your emotional and mental energy. I think it's why we have such a high with mental illnesses right now. And listen, I'm not a doctor. I don't know that for sure. And I'm definitely not making any claims here, but it's my theory that is definitely not helping our mental health situation these days. So, being someone who has struggled with depression, I hold up pretty high standards for what I expose myself to on a regular basis, as far as like news and conversations and all kinds of things. I just don't do it. I don't do it. So, I would love to know if there's anything that you yourself are trying to just be less offended by. Is there something that you are now just in this conversation that you're seeing like, maybe I need to do less of that, or maybe I need to change this, or maybe I need to call this person? I'd really love to know. So, yay, I love this. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Please feel free, if you have any questions, to reach out. I would love to chat with you. These calls currently, or these teachings, are going to continue to stay free. I'm not currently opening a coaching group on this. However, if that is something you would be interested in, please do let me know and we can walk deeper into a lot of these. But we will be dumping the junk for the next month. And so there are different topics on this. And as always, feel free to reach out. And I am going to say this month a lot. Please feel free to reach out for help if you need it. There is no shame in seeking out counseling, Therapy, quite frankly, I wish there was less of a stigma on it. I have been through counseling and therapy myself for multiple things, and I can tell you it has made all the difference. All the difference. I cannot recommend it enough. So, next week, we will be talking about struggles that you have overcome. I love this topic. Gosh, so many of us have been through so many things in this group. And so I am really excited to share this with you and to hear back from you on things that you yourself have overcome. All right, guys, have a fantastic, or gals, have a fantastic rest of your day and week. And I will see you next time. Bye.